Hello, my name's D-Don the First, and yes, I am threatening you with a rocket launcher, so please pay attention. This is episode 1 of an amateur guide to Payday 2. Why episode 1 and not just like one super long video like I did for Dark Souls 3? Well, I don't want this to end up like the Dark Souls 3 video. I want everything to be covered without having to cut stuff out. And also not to be behind on my arbitrary deadline this time. So I'm going to break it up into hopefully 3 videos, a 4th one in case if I forget anything. And we're going to be talking about general stuff that covers basically everything in the game before talking about specifics like stealth and going loud, which will get their own videos. And real quick, anything I do not cover in this video that I show on screen is because either A, it's because of my mods, or B, I don't know if it's the base game or my mods. So if you see something in this video that you do not see in your game, even when you follow the instructions, that means it's one of my mods. Anywho, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with one of the most important things, the settings. Now, why is this one of the most important things? Simple. We're gonna make it to where your game's less likely to crash, along with a few other things. So we just need to go to Video, and then Advanced. And all you need to do, texture quality, shadow quality, anything but the highest settings. And there you go. Your game will now be 80% less likely to crash. If you're wondering how this makes it to where your game's less likely to crash, it's quite simple. Game run on old engine. Engine can handle gameplay very well, cannot handle its own graphics. The setting for everything else, you can just go ahead and be whatever you want. As long as the graphic settings are not set to the maximum, your game will last longer. There's also settings that I would like you to mess with in user interface and accessibility. But for now, we'll just use user interface. You can go ahead and change these settings to however you would like, but I would like you to make sure that throwable outline and ammo outline are turned on. This will ensure that if you're using a throwable, you'll be able to figure out where it is so you can pick it up easier, and you'll be able to see the ammo drops left behind by enemies through walls. And since you can pick up ammo drops through walls, this makes it quite easy to avoid getting shot at when you're running low on ammo. Now that the settings are out of the way, let's get to some of the fun stuff. Your inventory! Or what it should actually be called, the page where it tells everything about you. Though, if you're completely new to the game, you'll look like this. And that is perfectly fine. If you want to have a snazzy mask and a snazzy suit, along with some weapons other than the default, you have to work your way to it. But for now, let's talk about everything that's on this page. Starting off with the characters. The character screen, to where none of this matters. You can play as whoever you want and it will have no effect on gameplay. So if you want to, go off just the voice lines. It really does not matter. Now, we can talk about the masks. There are quite a lot of masks in Payday 2. And I don't even have them all yet. And each mask is customizable, though some of them are just too glorious to change. Now, you'll have a limited stock of masks, materials, patterns, and colors to choose from whenever you want to do something like this. Oh god, what have I done? That isn't even the same shade of orange! Luckily, if you don't like the abomination you made, you could just hit escape and then just not apply the changes. Though, keep in mind that once you customize a mask, you cannot undo the customization. The only way to get the mask's default look back is to either buy another copy, or to return/sell the mask. What do I mean by return/sell? Well, simple. Some masks you can only own one copy of, like the Piggy Bank, and some masks you could have an unlimited amount of them, as long as you have spare in stock, like the Vampire. If you can only have one mask in stock, you cannot sell it, you can only return it. This will not give you any money back, and you will not gain the materials back from your customization, but you can get the default mask back whenever you'd like. To where if you can sell a mask, you'll get your money back, but just like returning the mask, you will have to buy it again in order to get it back. Now, if any mask has begins in its name, they will be pure white and made to be customized on. Now that that's out of the way, let's move on to your suit and your gloves. We will be talking about armor later on in the video, though to change your outfit and gloves are in the same page as armor, which we'll get into later. Now all characters have their default outfits and default gloves. I, however, don't really care much about the default outfits, because I have an aesthetic to uphold. Every outfit will have its own default gloves attached to it. And if an outfit has this little paintbrush next to it, that means it's customizable, to the extent where you can wear one of its preset variants. And that's it. Though you are able to pair any outfit with any kind of glove you would like. Oh, these would be great for punching. Though there is one downside to wearing a custom outfit. You cannot see the armor you're wearing, unless if it's the default outfit. But if you don't care about looking like you're a walking tank, then having custom outfits and gloves are for you. Now that we got dress up out of the way, let's talk about some of the more fun stuff, like your weapons. When it comes to Payday 2 weapons, there are a lot of them, and I do mean a lot of them. But, since I'm assuming that you're level 1, you'll just be having the MA car rifle and the Tremano 88 pistol. Now, we're not going to be going too deep into the weapons here because, well, they're pretty straightforward. Though some weapons and weapon categories have unique properties, and I will be going into detail about those. So let's get started. We'll be starting off with the sniper rifle because it's the most straightforward. Sniper rifles, all of them, are armor piercing. But something else the sniper rifle can do is shoot through walls. Enemies that have bulletproof shields, let me show real quick. No matter how much I shoot the shield, he would not die. Sniper rifle will shoot through them. Now, something else that is also extremely straightforward is the RPG, or literally any missile launcher. Specifically, missile launchers. They explode, they kill people, but no matter what, you will not be able to pick up ammo boxes. You will not be able to refill your rockets from an ammo box. But any other weapon can. Rocket launchers are some of the highest damaging weapons in the game.
Bulldozer no longer in working order.
2 shots to kill a bulldozer. Straight to the face. But because you can't pick up ammo in order to refill them, you would have to rely on
Ammunition has arrived.
ammo bags. This would be the only way to refill your rockets. So if you're going to run a rocket launcher, make sure to bring an ammo bag. Now we will move on to the simple shotgun. Or not so simple, there's actually quite a bit when it comes to it. Starting off with the most straightforward, the shotgun push. This depends on distance, but if you land a killing shot with a shotgun, again depending on the distance, it will depend on how far an enemy gets pushed back. You could see the difference quite well. But something else when it comes to the shotgun is the fact that it fires multiple pellets. Which means if an enemy is standing right next to each other, you can actually hit them both at the same time. But there is something else that needs to be talked about before we move on to some of the other stuff when it comes to the shotgun. It doesn't matter how many pellets hit one enemy, it will do the exact same damage. Whether it be one pellet or all of them, the enemy will always take the same amount of damage. 2 shots with all the pellets to the head. And back up here, so only 1 pellet hits. It will be 2 shots to the head. It will always be the same damage. So, when it comes to shotguns, the best way to use them is to make sure that it has as little accuracy as possible so it's always hitting multiple targets. Now, let's talk about some of the other stuff a shotgun can do. Shotguns have multiple ammo types. This is the buckshot. It's basically like default ammo, but with a damage boost. that you can't see because I'm playing on the highest difficulty. Before we move on to the next round, I just need to show something. This is the heavy SWAT. By default, their front plate is bulletproof. Despite that blood spurting out, unless if I hit him on any other part of the body, he's going to take no damage. Now with that shown, allow me to introduce the flèche rounds. Flèche rounds are just armor piercing. They ignore your bulletproof armor. So if you're fighting an enemy that is bulletproof, just switch to flèche rounds and you'll be able to take them out. Though, there's the far more powerful slug round, which, unlike other shotgun rounds, can pierce
Shield disabled.
ballistic shields, and, also like a sniper rifle, if I can figure out where the hell he is,
Shield no longer in working order.
can also go through walls. Another round that can go through ballistic shields, but not walls, is the Dragon's Breath.
Shield non-operational. I really enjoyed that.
That makes me happy. But yes, the Dragon Breath round. It ignores your
Shield out of
shields.
service.
Stuff like Dragon Breath's rounds will have heavily reduced damage, but please ignore that. And when it comes to fire damage, no matter what your damage value is, fire damage will stay the same. And since it's a over time damage effect,
Non-operational. You can thank me later.
you'll still be able to kill people even if the damage is very low. There's also Tombstone rounds that is also damage over time bullet, but instead of fire, it's poison. That doesn't go through shields. So,
Shield out of service.
now while that shield did die in one bullet, that didn't really give you a good idea of what the Tombstone is really good at. So let's... There we go. Tombstone rounds make the enemy barf. Otherwise, there's no visual indication that they're poisoned. But it does more damage over time. And finally, the rounds I always forget about when it comes to shotguns. The explosive round. Which is good at making an enemy stumble, but... Jeez, the damage is bad. They are fun, though. So if you're using the right kind of shotgun, you could basically jungle enemies non-stop, so that way they wouldn't be able to hurt your teammates. Or you can knock them into the line of your teammates' fire so they can kill them for you. If they stumble at all! Though, please be careful, because you can hurt yourself with them. Now, let's move on to something else that uses multiple ammo types. The grenade launcher. You got your basic explosive, you have your stinger rounds, which just turns the grenade launcher into a shotgun. The napalm round I just set off at my face, which will leave fire behind for a couple of seconds. Not very long, but for as long as the napalm's there, any enemy that walks into the fire will be set on fire. The poison grenades, which, well, they're poison grenades, but instead of leaving a trail of fire behind, they leave a poison cloud that apparently this guy's immune to? Either that or the poison just stops after a bit. This is weird. This normally would be killing the guys repeatedly. Do I need to... And now for what I thought was the weakest round, the stun grenade. Oh, that guy was almost dead. Okay, so maybe the poison was about to kill him. And yeah, it does exactly as the name suggests. It stuns enemies. Just don't get it mixed up with the stinger round. That's the one that turns it into a shotgun. And it does take multiple rounds to kill a cop. But it's a grenade launcher. You can hit multiple enemies. And because it's a grenade launcher and not a rocket launcher, for some reason that means you can pick up the police's ammo boxes to refill your grenades. Bows, crossbows, and arrows. Now, this is also something that uses multiple ammo types, but it functions a bit differently than normal weaponry. For one, you cannot aim down sight unless you're getting ready to shoot, at least when it comes to the bows. When it comes to the crossbows, you can aim down sight as much as you like, but when it comes to the bows themselves, in order to aim down sight, you have to hold down the fire button. Though, if you decide you don't want to shoot, in order to make sure that you don't fire off the arrow, all you have to do is click the aim button. Now, something else when it comes to arrows. They cannot be refilled by ammo boxes, but if you can get to the arrow, you pick up the arrow. So far we have seen the standard arrow. So let me show you the 2 other arrow types. Yes, this has the least amount of different ammo types, and yes, it is hard to tell that the arrows look different with this bow. The other bows are a little bit easier to tell the difference with, but not this one. Anyway, here's the explosive arrow, dealing a lot more damage, actually has a good explosive damage. Though the one downside is you cannot pick up the arrows because they self-destruct. But now you might be asking, wait, what if I still want to pick up the arrows? How do I get them back? Well, there's 2 ways. Either 1, click the arrow button and there will not be enough force to set it off, or 2, ammo bag.
Ammo, here you go.
The poison arrow. I hit him directly in the armor-proof plating. Hold on, let me aim for the knee. It just does poison over time. So if you don't kill him in one hit... they'll barf. They'll die. Just please keep in mind, unless you're using the explosive arrow, any enemy that has bulletproof armor will, not get hurt, even though the arrow is almost coming out of their back. Holy cow! Now, there is technically one more kind of weapon I would like to cover before we move on to the flamethrower. Underbarrel weapons. Underbarrel weapons come in many shapes and sizes. You get your shotguns, you get your grenade launchers, there's even an underbarrel flamethrower weapon. And they're all quite neat. Now, not every weapon has underbarrel weapons. I'm just showing off the pistol that has that, which with this particular one has an underbarrel shotgun, which can have multiple ammo types. For some reason, not all of the ammo types, but it can have some. And it's just a nice thing to have in case if you want to bring more weapons into a fight. Some secondary weapons and some primary weapons both have underbarrel weapons. Though something you need to keep in mind though is that when it comes to the underbarrel weapon, they have their own ammo pool. So when you pick up ammo from an ammo box or take it from an ammo bag, it will be...
Eat this.
Whoops. It will refill the underbarrel weapon. Though we'll be going into why you should probably be careful with underbarrel weapons when it comes to ammo bags later on in the video. Now then, the final 2 weapons I'm going to be talking about. The flamethrower will be going first. And this is also very simple. The The flamethrower sets enemies on fire, but fire damage is fixed. So even though I have a modified flamethrower that does a whole whopping 3 damage, it will kill this guy very quickly. Once again, despite that the police drop boxes of bullets, you can use that to refill your flamethrower ammo. Now, I can hold it down, but then it's just a waste of ammo, because since it's fire damage, it depends on how long they're on fire before they die, not how much I pepper them. So just tapping it so they just get hit with more damage over time fire, that's all you need to do. And this can also hit multiple enemies at once. Now for the final weapon we're going to cover, the Oversaw 9000. This is a very unique weapon because it can be both equipped primary and secondary, and also takes up a lot of your screen space. Now, unlike other weapons, this thing clearly doesn't shoot. It's a saw, but as you may notice, it has an ammo counter. Why? Because the saw, despite not being a very good weapon, while putting enough points into proper skills, can still kill. Albeit not very well. There we go. And while you're not hitting anything, it doesn't use up any ammo. You hit something like the floor, the wall, a safe you're sawing open, or a cop, it will use up that ammo. Now, you cannot pick up ammo for the saw, like how you can't pick up ammo for a missile launcher. So how you fix that?
Ammo available.
Need I say more? Now, when it comes to the saw, no one really uses it as a weapon, unless if they're really bored. What they really use the saw for is to open up safety deposit boxes to get loot. And they will bring ammo bags, because the saws don't last very long. As much as it's fun to saw people to death, this is better use as utility rather than a weapon. So please keep that in mind if you're planning on bringing in a saw. Now, that should be everything when it comes to weapons that I want to talk about. Now, let's move on to attachments. Okay, so when it comes to weapon attachments, I lied a little bit. We're not really going to be talking too much about them. We're going to be talking about the weapon stats. But before we actually do that, we can talk about a few things, like weapon colors and weapon skins. Weapon colors are pretty straightforward. Custom colors that you can apply onto a weapon. You can decide how you want it to be applied and how much wear and tear you want on those colors. You can apply and remove these as much as you like, completely for free, though when it comes to weapon skins, there's a couple of things. They come in different rarities, though some of them, as you can tell because I have 2 of the exact same, some of them will come with modifiers, which you can also just slap onto the gun as much as you like. Every single gun you can slap on a modifier for, but not every single gun has a weapon skin, but everything does have a custom color, though some skins actually are able to modify the weapon stats itself, because they are usually accompanied by some sort of weapon attachment. Some weapon skins just come with a bunch of free attachments. Now, with a lot of these weapon skins, when it comes to attachments, you can remove them, though some of them are permanent attachments that you cannot remove unless you take the skin off. And with these free attachments, you don't have to pay at all in order to apply it. But if you remove the skin, any attachments that came with the weapon, whether they're on the weapon or not, will be removed. So if you want to keep these attachments, you'll have to actually keep the skin on the weapon, though it would only be able to be applied to that specific weapon. Something that you need to know when it comes to certain weapon attachments. We'll be using the Deagle's exclusive set as an example. Some attachments make it to where you either gain access to or completely lose access to certain weapon attachments. So I no longer have an extended grip on this Deagle because of the exclusive set, I no longer have a custom slide available, and I can no longer use my custom grip unless if I remove the exclusive set. So whenever you're trying to customize a weapon, try to keep in mind if it says it's incompatible with certain attachments. Now, with all that said, let's talk about the weapon stats. Magazine, total ammo, that's pretty straightforward. The fire rate, pretty straightforward. Damage is a little less straightforward because even though it is how much damage you deal to an enemy, it also affects your ammo pickup rate. The higher the damage, the less ammo you get from ammo pickups. So if you run completely dry, you have to run around collecting more ammo boxes in order to fully refill. All weapons fire in cone, and the higher accuracy, the smaller the cone. To where if it's at 100%, that cone is more like a laser, so you would be able to fire a laser of bullets. Stability is just basically how much you start going upward as you continuously shoot. Higher stability, the more you can shoot before you're suddenly looking at the sun. Threat is an interesting mechanic, which the suppressor completely removes in case if you decide you don't like threat, which there is valid reason to have as little threat as possible. But if you have highest amount of threat, it can do several things in both loud and stealth. In loud, any civilians that hear the shot will freeze in place for a few moments, and if you're close enough to them, they'll actually get down to the ground, which can be very useful if you're in the middle of a firefight, as in killing civilians makes it to where you lose money. And it'll also make any enemies that are susceptible to threat dodge out of the way of your shots. And while in stealth, it can actually be used to make it to where any patrolling security guards that you come across that you don't want to kill will start to panic. And while they're panicking, as long as they're not alerted, they'll end up blocking their own vision with their hands, which will make it to where you can actually sneak by them relatively easy. Though, if you're doing stealth, you'll be using a suppressor, and suppressors get rid of a lot of threat. It may take a lot of shots in order to make them actually panic. So, even though this could be extremely useful, it is rarely used. Reload time is pretty straightforward, and now, optimal range. Being represented by 3 bars, it is just close range, medium range, and far range. That is not how far the bullet will travel before it just suddenly disappears, that is how far the bullet will travel before it starts losing damage. Some weapons will have a little plus on the end of their range value. I do not know what this means. Now that you are aware of the weapon stats, you can properly modify your weapon to make the most out of it. Or to make it the worst gun in existence just for the laughs. Now there's 2 more weapons we need to go over, Throwables and melee. We'll be starting off with melee. Now, when it comes to melees of Payday 2, I say just go off what you prefer, unless if it's a stealth run, in which case, still go off based on what you prefer, but it has a high enough amount of concealment for your liking. Because melee weapons have different amount of attack times, different amount of charge time to maximize the damage for when you hold down the melee button instead of just tapping it, and they also have different amount of range. Now, if you want to know when a melee attack is fully charged, there will be a sound cue that plays. It's not the same for all melee weapons, but you'll know it when you hear it. And melee weapons are not just for beating people up, or just stabbing them, because some of them actually have extra effects, like the stainless steel syringe or the kunai knife will deal poison, the buzzer melee or the electric brass knuckles will tase enemies, and the comically large spoon of gold will set enemies on fire when you melee them. A lot of the melees are silly, they're fun, so just go with what you would like the best. The Throwables. Being mostly explosives of one form or another, from the utility-based concussion grenades or X1 zapper to your more lethal options like grenades, molotovs, poison gas canisters, to some of the more silly like throwing cards. You have multiple options, though some of these options are locked behind perk decks. Perk deck throwables are actually not throwables, with the exception of the smoke bomb, though there is something you need to be cautious of. Depending on throwable, the cops can shoot it out of the air. This does not apply to all throwables. They cannot shoot out your shurikens, ace of spades, your throwing axes, throwing knives, or your javelins out of the air. They also cannot shoot the incendiary grenade, viper grenade, concussion grenade, or the X1 zapper. Throwables are also free, but are again locked behind levels, except for the throwables locked behind perk decks. Those can be unlocked at any level. Now for deplorables. You may notice I had no deployable equipped. That's because deplorables are the only thing in your loadout that you can just decide not to bring. Do I recommend this? No. But anyway, deployables are free to use, with the exception of 2. They are not locked behind your level, and you can use them whenever you like. With the exception of the armor bag and the suppressed sentry gun, you get access to all of the deployables right off the gate, and you can use any of the ones you want. Though the suppressed sentry turrets are locked behind skill points, and the armor bag is locked behind perk decks. Every single one of the deployables will give you a good idea of what they're about, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. Now, with the exception of the armor bag and the ordnance bag, you can upgrade how many of these deployables you carry and how effective they can be. the ammo bag. By default, it contains 400% ammunition. This means that no matter what, as long as your gun is completely empty, it will refill it up to 100% 4 times. Though, whenever you use an ammo bag, it will refill all of your weapons, not just the one that you're currently holding. So if you say have 2 completely empty guns and 2 completely empty under-barrel weapons, the ammo bag will completely refill all of them, but then it'll be out of charges and it'll just disappear. This does not refill throwables. Armor bags are something I have never seen anyone use, except for me. They just make it to where whatever armor you currently have equipped is replaced with a 2-piece suit until you're ready to use the armor you wanted to use. Body bag cases are only useful in stealth. They allow you to pick up a body, and that is it. So with the exception of the body bags that you already come with, you'll be able to move 3 dead bodies. You cannot use a body bag case on loud. Doctor's bags replenish your health. Though unlike ammo bags, it's not a percentage base. They run on a number of charges. So whether if you're down to 1% or 100% health, if you try to use a doctor's bag, you will use up that charge. It only has 4 charges by default, but they can be quite useful because you have a limited amount of downs. Think of it as lives. Whenever you're out of downs, you'll be down to your last life, and you'll be able to tell this because whenever you're closer to dying, your screen will start turning gray. Doctor bags make it to where whenever you use them, they fully refill all of your downs. So if you're down to your last life, use a doctor bag even if you're at full health, and you'll get all your downs back. The ECM Jammer. This can be used to scramble cameras if you're doing it in stealth, or if the heist is loud, you can use it to release a very annoying sound that stuns all enemies nearby. First aid kits are like doctor's bags, except when you use one, it is just gone. They only carry 1 charge, so therefore you carry multiple of them, but they do not restore your downs. The Ordnance Bag. This is a DLC exclusive deployable. The only DLC exclusive deployable. What does it do? It makes it to where it restocks your throwables. Unless if it's a perk deck throwable, in which case it does nothing for them. The sentry gun and the suppressed sentry gun are turrets that take a percentage of your total ammo from all of your weapons, and I do mean all of your weapons, in order to be deployed and just basically shoot at cops for you. They are stationary, they do not move, and if they break, you cannot pick them up. But if you pick them up when they're damaged before they fully break, it will instantly repair them, and any ammo that they have not used up will be returned to you. The suppressed sentry gun is the exact same as the normal sentry gun, but don't be fooled by the suppressed part. If you try to run these in stealth, everyone will hear the sentry gun if it shoots. It is not a stealthy sentry gun. The suppressed part just means it's less likely to be targeted by enemies when it's deployed. Trip mines and safe charges. This has a use in both loud and stealth because it has 2 modes. The straightforward explosive mode, which is on by default in loud, and the sensor mode, which is on by default in stealth. Now, with the sensor mode, it will highlight anyone that walks through it, even if you could not normally highlight them, and it will give off a beep to let you know that it did this. And as for the shape charges, they just help you blow open doors or safe or whatever. Though keep in mind, depending on where it is, it might destroy some of the loot. It will not destroy any loot that you need to gather to complete a heist, but any other optional loot can be damaged, so keep that in mind. Now we can talk about armor, and then we can move on to skills and perk decks. Just like most things in this game, armor is locked behind levels, so by default you'll be stuck with the 2-piece suit, which has the lowest armor stat of the entire game, which is not necessarily a bad thing, for as long as you have any amount of armor, with some exceptions, you cannot take any damage to your health. Though there is something that you should keep in mind, because a 2-piece suit has the least amount of armor, it gives you the most amount of speed and stamina. The heavier the armor you wear, the more armor you get, but you run slower and you cannot run for as long. And also, because it's a 2-piece suit, it has the best concealment, because it's the least suspicious thing to wear. And the last thing that we're going to cover when it comes to armor is steadiness. The more armor you have, the more steady you are. What does this actually mean in gameplay? If an enemy melees you, that affects how far you get knocked back. If you're wearing a 2-piece suit, you'll go flying. If you're wearing the strongest armor in the game, which is locked behind skill points, they will barely be able to move you. Now it is finally time to talk about skills and perk decks. We'll be starting off with skills. Now, when you're max level, you'll gain 120 skill points to use, and you have to spend a certain amount of points in order to go up in the tree. But because I went infamous, I can actually spend less skill points in order to get higher up in the tree. Going infamous, or prestige, or however you want to call it, makes it to where you can spend less points in order to go up the skill tree. Thankfully, it only works on going Infamy 1. After that, it has no effect on skill trees, so I can't just spend 1 point down here to get to the highest level here. Now, when it comes to the skill trees, each are 3 skill trees in each one of these tabs, and you can put your points anywhere in these tabs. And like I said, you can put skill points wherever you like. And you can refund them however you like. It costs absolutely nothing to reset your skill points. But in order to refund a skill point I don't want to use in the lower tree, I will have to refund enough points in the higher trees until they are fully refunded before I can go back on the lower. Now, I recommend reading what the skills do. For the most part, the game is very straightforward and will tell you what each one does. Each skill has a basic and an ace version. The basic is the one that you just buy right off the bat for the smallest price. But to ace it, you can buy the perk again to get its ace effect. Now with that said, let's talk about some of the upgrades for the deplorables since I didn't go over them. In the medic skill tree, we got uppers, which makes it to where you carry more first aid kits, and when aced will allow you to deploy even more first aid kits, while also making it to where if a player goes down within a certain range of a first aid kit that is already deployed, they just won't go down, they'll instead be fully healed. But this cannot happen more than once every 20 seconds. Combat Doctor in the medic skill tree, you get 2 more doctor bags, and when aced, each doctor bag has 2 more charges. In the ammo specialist, bullet storm, and extra lead. Extra lead makes it to where you carry more ammo bags and giving them 50% more charge. Bullet storm makes it to where if a player uses your ammo bag on the basic for at least 5 seconds, they will have a bottomless magazine. And the ace version boosts it by another 15 seconds. And why did I say another 15 seconds and not up to 15 like it says? Well, because Bullet Storm is bugged. A bug that became a feature, but still a bug. There's an achievement in this game for using a certain weapon with Bullet Storm for about 20 to 30 seconds. Hey everyone, Editing Detail here, and as much as I want to keep this segment going, we need to keep the video moving. It's getting quite long. So, before we move on to perk decks, I'll just say this. Read the skills very carefully, because some of them do more than what their skill tree suggests. Okay, now onto the perk decks. Okay, when it comes to perk decks, if you want to know what everything the perk deck can do without having to hover over every individual card, hover over the name. Now you may notice that it's only telling you the odd number cards. Well, that's because all the even numbered cards on every single perk deck are exactly the same. In order, they are head popping, 25% more damage when doing a headshot. Blending in, +1 concealment, and the negative effect of wearing armor is reduced by 15%, plus you gain an additional 45% more experience whenever you complete days or jobs. Walk-in closet. This allows you to use the armor bag deployable, while also making it to where you pick up 135% more ammo from ammo drops. And finally, Fast and Furious. You do 5% more damage, and you interact with the doctor's bag 20% faster. Now, there's a total of 24 perk decks in the game. Though, if you got the game during the last Steam sale, you will only have access to 22. Or if you're one of the people that bought it around the same time I did, you will only have access to 23. The ones that most people will be missing, that I have, is Hitman. This is because 2 of the DLCs that give you these perk decks have been removed from the Steam store. Now, by default when you start off, the perk deck will be automatically selected, and that will be Crew Chief. While this is not a bad perk deck, for new players, I do not recommend it. I'll go into detail on what I recommend for new players in a bit, but for right now, let's talk about how you unlock the perk decks. Whenever you gain a certain amount of experience, you'll gain a perk point. You can still earn experience even at level 100, so you can still earn perk points to unlock a perk deck. The game will stop giving you perk points once you have enough to fill up every single perk deck in the game, even if you don't have access to that perk deck. Each perk deck has 9 cards, and for the most part, they're good at telling you what they do. Now, there's a couple that are poorly worded or misleading. For this example, we're going to be talking about Yakuza. Now, as you see on the 9th card, it says all Berserker state effects in this perk deck will start at 50% health instead of 25. Why does it say Berserker state effects? Well, there's a skill in this game called Berserker. Do they affect each other? No. The only thing they share is the less health you have, the stronger their effects. Skill points and perk decks cannot affect each other. While all the perk decks could be used in one way or another, these are the ones I recommend you start off with, so that way you can last long enough to have fun. Now, for the most part, I'm going to be talking about just the first perk card, but I will describe the benefit of fully maxing out the perk deck as well. Starting off with Gambler. Once every 3 seconds, while picking up ammo, you will heal for a random amount of health. Now, when Gambler is fully upgraded, you get to heal more, and it will actually refill and heal your teammates as well. But it doesn't reduce the cooldown. But as long as you don't do the stereotype of what gamblers do of running for ammo when they're being shot at and going down because of it, you could be beneficial to your team. Just keep in mind that refilling their ammo and healing everyone only happens once every 3 seconds. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you fully upgrade a perk deck, while you're using that perk deck, whenever you finish a heist, you have a 10% chance to get higher quality items. Grinder. This one is actually my personal favorite when it comes to healing. Every time you damage an enemy, you'll gain 1 health back every 0.3 seconds for 3 seconds. And the effect stacks. Now, this is a far more selfish healing thing because it only heals you. This is because the cooldown ends before the effect ends, so for brief moments in time, you can actually make it to where you get double the healing. Now, you are restricted to the 2 weakest armors in the game while using this perk deck, otherwise you get no healing, but unless you're playing on the highest difficulties to where everything can shoot your armor off in 1 to 2 shots, you should be completely fine. But something that the perk deck doesn't tell you. It just has to be damage caused by you. You do not have to shoot an enemy in order to do this. If you were to say, lay down a trip mine, or use a turret, set an enemy on fire, or poison them, as long as it came from you originally, you'll get healed from it. Leveling up this to the max just means you just get healed more for a longer amount of time. So instead of 1 health point, it would be a maximum of 4 for 4.2 seconds. So you could get some really good healing off. Ex-President. Whenever you or a teammate end up killing an enemy, you'll end up storing 4 health for future healing, which is represented by a bar on the inside of your health circle. Now, this is also affected by how much armor you have, but unlike Grinder, you could wear whatever armor you would like and still get the healing. It's just that the more armor you have, the less healing you have. In order to trigger the healing, you need to let your armor completely break, all the way down to 0%, and then let it fully recover. Though, whenever armor recovery is triggered, it will instantly restore 100% of your armor, despite the visual effects inside of the game. And when the perk deck is fully maxed out, you will of course be able to store more health, but whenever you kill an enemy, depending on what armor you're wearing, it'll make it to where your armor recovery rate is actually faster, so you spend less time without any armor. So you can trigger the healing far more often. Anarchist. This one I think should be for the more experienced players, but this can still be very good to know. It makes it to where your armor is constantly recovering even while you're being shot at, and when your armor breaks for a very short amount of time, you cannot take any damage whatsoever. But this cannot occur more than once every 15 seconds. This is another one to where it does not matter what kind of armor you have. Though, the more armor you have, the bigger the chunks of armor that are restored. But they restore slower. So this can make it to where you could survive wearing nothing but a 2-piece suit, or with a giant Iron Man suit. Because as you level it up, it gives you even more armor, but at the cost of reducing your maximum health. Though once fully upgraded, whenever you do damage, you will regain more armor. Biker. Whenever you or a teammate kill an enemy, you gain 5 health and 5 armor. This happens not exactly 4 times every 4 seconds. It's more like there's 4 different procs for it that can happen once every 1 second. So if you're playing with a full team and everyone's killing 1 cop every 1 second, you'll gain 4 procs of healing and armor recovery every second. And as you upgrade this, yes, you recover more health and more armor, but the lower your health, the more health and armor recovery you get. And that's it for all the perk decks I recommend if you're a beginner. Let's move on. Crew management is where you get to manage your AI crew. From what weapon they're using to what masks and outfits they're wearing, you can adjust your crew to be a little bit more useful. Now, the masks, outfits, and guns, those are all locked to what you already have. But I recommend when it comes to guns, use an automatic weapon like an LMG, some form of assault rifle, or a shotgun, and make sure it has a high capacity. Because the crew AI, while they can be very useful, and they are very, very tanky, they can be a bit dumb sometimes. And sometimes, right after they reload, they just don't shoot for a bit. They will get back to shooting eventually. It's just that sometimes there's enemies right in front of them, shooting at them nonstop, and they're just taking it. So please make sure it is a weapon that will keep on firing, because it makes it less likely that they're just gonna stop firing altogether. Now, the AI priority thing, you can just select it whoever you want it to be. As long as they're not the character you're playing, they'll be that. Though, if you're playing online, when someone joins, they'll replace bot 3, then 2, then 1. And if they leave, the bot will come back to take their place. But the bot will become whoever they were playing as. The crew ability and the crew boosts. At the cost of continental coins, you can unlock these and select one to equip to a singular bot. If one bot is already equipped with something and you try to equip it onto another, it will not work. With the crew abilities, with the exception of piercing, it makes it to where the more AI you have, the better it does something. Like being able to reload or interact with stuff faster. Though if a player joins, it will remove the bot and remove the crew ability and the crew boost they apply. So to make sure that the most important crew abilities and boosts to you are equipped to the first bot, because that will make it to where it'll take the longest to get replaced. Crew boosts are not affected by how many bots you have. It is just a small boost to gameplay, like being able to reload and swap weapons faster, making it to where after you kill a certain amount of enemies, you recharge a throwable. This does not affect perk deck throwables. Make it to where you have more concealment. Bots can be extremely beneficial if you are playing offline or have no one to play with in general. Now, let's go over Infamy. Infamy is pretty straightforward. Once you become level 100, you can go up in Infamy and unlock stuff like masks, more experience, and some other stuff that I have not gotten to yet. You go to this page, and to go Infamous, you can either do it by resetting your levels or reputation, or you can use the Infamy pool, which is just any experience that you gain from after becoming level 100, though you need a lot of experience in order to go up in the Infamy pool instead of resetting your reputation to level 0. Though, once you go up in Infamy, you have to come back to this page to see what you unlocked. I don't have enough in the Infamy pool in order to go up in Infamy, so I will be resetting my levels. And now that I've done that, you click here, and that's the newest thing I unlocked. A Power Rangers mask. Now I have to go up in level again to get all my skill points, all my melee weapons, all of my guns, and for my crew AI, because I no longer have access to the weapons I gave to them, they reset to the default weapons, which I am going to fix right now. So now we better start playing some heists so I can regain my levels. Now we need to go to CrimeNet, so we can either go into online mode or offline mode. There's some differences here too, very small differences. In online mode, you will obviously see other people hosting a match. But in something that is in online mode, that is not in offline mode, is the filters. Yeah, if you're in offline mode, you do not get filters for some reason. Okay, there's actually only one reason I'm talking about the filters, so I'm just going to cut to the chase. The difficulty filter. This is the only thing that if you mess with will actually affect both online and offline. Because you see all those heists that are popping in and out of existence behind the filter here? Whether they be the game just recommending you a random heist at a random difficulty, or if it's being hosted by another player, changing the difficulty filter will make it to where only the difficulty that you have selected will pop up. And this is good for kind of cheesing the game a little bit. Because some of the difficulties are actually locked behind what level you are. I believe you need to be at level 70 in order to unlock all of the difficulties in the game, but the filter lets you just ignore that. So if you were say level 1, you could just play on the highest difficulty of death sentence. I don't recommend doing this because I think you should play the game and get better at it before you try the higher difficulties, but if you want to, you could do that right off the bat. Of course, the higher the difficulty, the more money and experience you gain from completing the heist, but you also have to do more in order to actually complete the heist. And before we actually move on, there is actually one more thing I want to talk about because I forgot to talk about it later in the video. Some heists are actually categorized by levels. The game won't tell you this, and you have to look it up wiki or something, but some heists will actually give you an experience penalty for not being a high enough level for completing them. Though there are other ways to where the game will actually give you an experience bonus, like the stealth bonus. You complete a heist in stealth, and then the next heist you do will give you an experience bonus, as long as you complete it in loud. If you complete it in stealth, it will just only add to the bonus and not be redeemed. And there's also to where the game will actually drop down an experience boosted lobby. If you have not played a heist in a long time, it will actually give you an experience boost, and the longer you go without playing that heist, the bigger the experience boost. Though, this is measured by how many heists you have played, not the amount of time since you last played. The game does this in order to encourage you to play a different number of heists, though it will actually also do this by making sure that you gain an experience penalty for playing the same heist over and over again. So to avoid this penalty, you need to make sure that you play a variety of heists. Now, while we're here, we're going to talk about some of the other stuff that you can see in CrimeNet. And let me click this so you can see the names. You get the tutorial heist. There's a tutorial heist, which, while they're not very good at teaching you the game, they can give you some money and experience, so I suggest you do them anyway. Safe House, which actually has two different modes of Safe House and Safe House Raid. The normal Safe House is just your safe house. You go there, you go to relax, go to talk to some of the characters, even see any safe house trophies you collected from playing the game. Safe House Raid is when the police raid your safe house because they get faulty intel, and if you successfully defend your safe house, you'll gain money, experience, and continental coins. The Contract Broker, which allows you to just pick any heist you want. Side jobs. These are just stuff like daily, weekly, or monthly jobs that you can do in order to get rewards, like more continental coins. It can be also used to get some weapons and their attachments. Though once you complete a side job, you have to go to this menu in order to redeem it, just like Infamy. So if you have a daily mission, and it expires in 13 minutes and you just got it, make sure to redeem it because otherwise you'll lose out on the reward. And then there's Gage's Packs. These are little packages that you can find in every single heist scattered around the place. The only reason to go into this menu is to keep track of how close you are to unlocking weapon attachments. Collecting a certain amount of these and completing a heist will net you one random attachment based on the packages. Offshore Payday. If you don't feel like doing a heist but you still want to earn a random drop, you go here in order to do an offshore payday. It works exactly the same way as if you finished a heist, except you get to pick what the preferred drop would be and how many cards it would be to guarantee that drop. There's a contract database, which just gives you just like lore information on everyone and everything that's in the game. Then there's mutators, crime spree, and holdout. Mutators are basically just mutate basic heists. Crime spree is just being able to do a bunch of heists back to back to back to back, but they're constantly becoming more and more difficult. So it can get to the point where the enemies can take you down fairly quickly and you can't take them down at all. But if you try Crime Spree, I highly recommend getting as far as you possibly can, because for every heist you complete, it'll add more to your prize pool. And in order to redeem the prize pool, you have to end the Crime Spree, which means if you want to go at it again or make a larger pool, you'll have to start over or pay continental coins in order to get back to where you were. Though if at any point, if you fail a heist, whether it be actually failing, quitting, or the game crashing during the heist, not outside of the heist. If it happens outside of the heist, you're safe, but if it's during the heist, you will lose, and you'll have to redeem whatever rewards you've gotten up to that point and start over. And holdout. This is free no matter what, and is a good way to level up quickly. It's at a fixed amount of time of 30 minutes. You must keep a hostage safe for 9 waves. If you do it for the maximum amount of waves, you get the most experience and the most amount of reward. And each map is a different level of difficulty. Finally, there are the lost tapes. These are just tapes that give you more lore, and in order to get them, you need to find them in the lost safe that are in 4 specific heists. Clicking on these posters will put you into those heists, and you need to find 2 keycards for each safe in order to get the lost tape. Let's go ahead and load a heist so I can regain my levels. The last thing we're going to cover before we move on to the heists. Assets and pre-planning. Assets are pretty straightforward. You have assets, you buy them, they're placed somewhere semi-randomly in the map. Pre-planning, however, is a bit better. Now, unlike assets, you can't buy everything in pre-planning because it costs favors. And once you're out of favors, you can't buy anything else. But you can pick specifically where it goes and other aspects of the heist, like your starting gear, how you enter, how you exit. These are heist dependent, but pre-planning is very nice and it can make heists so much easier. So I highly suggest you give it a shot whenever you can. And in case if you're bored and someone's taking too long to figure out where to put stuff, you can draw in it. Just a couple more things I want to cover before we talk about the heists themselves. Whenever you fail or restart a heist, you will always come back here. So you click here to go to the loadout tab, and you'll be able to change your gear. But if you want to change your skills and perk deck, go down here. Because if you have multiple custom builds, you can swap in between them right here. And if you click here, it will give you a drop-down menu so you don't have to rely on the arrows. Now, something I'm going to have to cover because I realized I completely forgot about it early in the video. Whenever you make a custom build, you get skill tree profiles. I'm calling them that so it doesn't get confusing. Now, skill tree profiles are basically the exact same thing as a custom build. You get multiple of them and you can swap in between them. And whenever you make a custom build, it will always, by default, go straight to the first skill tree profile. And I recommend changing that as soon as possible. Because anytime you change the skill tree and any build that is using the exact same skill tree profile, it will change it for all of them. If you have one build that's meant for tanking and another build made for stealth, and they use the same skill tree profile, you now either made it where you have a really bad stealth build or you have a really bad tank build. Now, if you're in a multiplayer thing and you didn't join before it went to this menu, which I stupidly didn't record, you'll notice one of two things besides the fact that there's a new tab called the crew loadout, which lets you know what everyone's running. There will either be music playing or no music playing. If no music is playing, then the heist is in stealth. If music is playing, with the exception of the lesser eyes, then it is 100% guaranteed going loud, and you're probably about to join in a firefight. Now, whenever you join a heist partway through, you will always spawn on top of the host. So either ask if it's safe to join before you do that, because who knows where the host is. They might be in the middle of getting gunned down by police, or they might be in a high traffic area if it's going stealth. Ask before joining. Though if you're hosting a heist, and in that multiplayer lobby that I completely forgot to record, there should be an option that says either edit game options or edit heist options. This will make it to where you can set to where if someone joins your lobby, it will be set to prompt. And until you input either yes, no, or kick into this prompt, the person can't join. So you can get into a nice safe spot where you're either not being shot at or is not an extremely high traffic area in stealth, and then the person will be able to join immediately without causing issues. Okay, and with that all of that covered, let's go ahead and talk about the heists themselves.
Engines running. I'll wait for you. Don't stick around.
Oh wait!
I'll wait for you.
I loaded a heist!
Guys,
And I have...
wired up. Stay frosty.
Okay, shut the fuck up. Oh hey, I loaded a heist, and I just realized I have no cross... Shut up, Jimmy! Man, I loaded a heist, and I just realized I don't have a crosshair. How am I gonna tell what I'm interacting with? Well, go to Options, and Accessibility, and turn on Motion Dot. For me, preferably yellow, because there's not that many yellow backgrounds. And also mess with the flashbang colors too, so you don't actually get flashbanged in real life. And voila! I now have a yellow dot to tell me where I'm aiming. Oh yeah, you can't put where you... That is actually a good gameplay hint, and I'm just gonna put this right here in the video. Whenever you start a heist, you'll either be starting off in mask on or in casing mode. There's a third mode called civilian mode, but that's used exclusively as a form of entrance for 2 heists, and is basically just a walking simulator, and you can't do anything. Now, anyone that has played so much as a single heist already knows this. So why am I covering it? Well, that is because of one thing in casing mode. Well, 2 things. 1, you can actually use skills to make it to where you can actually do a little bit more in casing mode. So you're not just walking around trying to avoid getting caught until you put your mask on. 2, watch out for security. This is something I noticed that every single new player struggles with until it's explained to them. Civilians, the ones you can actually walk through, and are not usually dressed up as some form of security, which I know depending on the heist, the security looks different, but bear with me. They're the ones, they will ignore you. You are a ghost to them. Security, it's not just whether if they're staring at you long enough, it is also proximity based. So if you don't want to get caught and not be forced into mask on mode, make sure that you're not too close to them, that you don't bump into them. Keep in mind, cameras can spot you too, because cameras are part of security. If you touch a security officer, they will instantly make you out to be a criminal. So please, to all you new players that are trying to either be stealthy or trying to get used to the game and are like trying to make sure you're in the right position before you start the heist by putting on mask, please be aware of the security. Okay, now then, with that said, let's talk about some of the things that you can do during the heist, like gathering loot. So there's two different types of loot. Pickup loot, which is just loot that you can stuff in your pocket and you can move on, you can do it an unlimited amount of times, you don't need to worry about it too much. But then there's backable loot. Backable loot, you can only carry one bag at a time, and it's not always loot. Sometimes it's a body, sometimes it's equipment given to you so you can complete the heist. But for the most part, it all follows the same logic. You can pick it up and you can throw it whenever you'd like. If you're playing with AI teammates, you can throw the bags to them and they'll carry it for you, but they won't drop it unless if you mash the follow button, in which case they'll just drop it onto the ground so they can chase after you. If you have teammates, you can throw the bags to them, and if they're not holding the bag, they could actually catch it mid-air. But this requires timing, so if they mess it up, you'll have to pick it up from the ground instead. Each bag has different weight tiers. I'm only going to talk about 3 of them because the majority of them have some version of heavy on them, and they all pretty much do the same thing, just ever increasingly more. You have the lightweight tier, which is the bags you can throw the furthest. They are the lightest, so they do not hinder your movement speed all that much. They're also the only weight tier to where you can actually sprint. Normal weight tier, your jump's a little lower, but it's almost not noticeable. Your walking speed's unchanged, but you can't sprint. And finally, the heavy tiers. It is very noticeable that you're walking slower. It is noticeable that you can't throw the bags anywhere near as far, and that you basically can't jump on the higher ones. Also, a nice little fact is that if you look straight up or straight down while moving forward while holding any of the loot bags, you'll start going at a slight angle instead of forward. All bags, no matter what's in them, will act the same as any other bag in the same weight tier. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff that I forgot to actually put into the script that actually does need to be covered, and because I wrote the script before I started recording, that also means that I forgot to focus on recording this stuff because I wasn't in my script. So, with the exception of Heist RNG, because I actually did write a script for that, let's talk about a bunch of stuff that I completely forgot to put in the script, with just off the top of my head. Let's go. Starting off with the drills. Drills are basically just keys with timers on them. When the timer hits 0, you can open up whatever you slap the drill on. If it has a screen like this, you can use your skills to improve the drill. If it doesn't have that screen, then you're stuck with whatever you got. But for the ones that you can upgrade, you can make it to where they're quiet, so they're harder to detect in stealth. Even though it is based on visuals, not on sounds, where the drill gets discovered or not, it will still become harder to detect because it's quieter, therefore people need to get closer in order to see it. I don't know the logic behind this. Drills can jam, and there is a skill that makes it to where they can unjam themselves. But they jam either because they did a check for it, so it breaks itself, or an enemy came by and broke it with like a baseball bat or something. So if you have an unupgraded drill, you need to babysit it to make sure it doesn't break, and that if it does break, you can fix it much quicker. There's also a skill to make it to where the timer is much shorter. Though if you don't have the skill, there's another thing that you can do. If you can put down multiple drills, do it. As long as the first drill you put down is still going, every drill that you put on down after that, I'm slightly wrong about this, but I'm going to keep going anyway. Every drill that you put down after that will have a shorter timer and will jam more often. Yeah, so turret 1 will be the slowest and turret 5 will be the fastest, but turret 5 will also break 30 times, while turret 1 will only break 4 times. Also, some things that you can put a drill on, which are usually doors, you can actually, in addition, lockpick, use a key or a key ring on there. Now, do these before you put a drill on the door, because in these instances, they are all faster than the drill itself. If the drill is on there, it makes it interacting using a lockpick, a key, or a key ring slower. And I'm saying key or key ring because if it's a key, it'll just unlock the door right away once the interaction is done. But if it's a key ring, it has a chance to not unlock the door that it goes to, so you have to do it multiple times. And if a drill's already on the door, it will make it to where it will fail even more times. Next up, we got driving. Yes, you can sometimes steal cars and other vehicles in this game. And for the most part, the vehicles have very accurate hitboxes. If you think a vehicle should be able to fit there, it normally can. The one exception being motorcycles, because they get the hitboxes of a forklift. And yes, you can drive forklifts in this game. It's used to help move loot around. It's very nice. But because the forklifts are 2 to 3 times wider than a motorcycle, the one heist that the motorcycles show up in, they get stuck very easily. There is a tunnel that is infamous to where if you mess up while on a motorcycle, it's gonna get stuck in there sideways. And the only way to get it out is to basically do that little shimmy thing that you do when you try to parallel park in order to straighten yourself out enough so you can drive out of the tunnel again. Ramming the vehicle does not work. I should know. I tried to get a car unstuck from underneath another one. You can't hear it right now, but this is much worse than before. Ramming them does not help at all. So if you do decide to ram something with a vehicle, make sure that's an enemy because they die instantly, and it's quite nice. Oh, and one more thing, if you're in the car job heist, practice driving those supercars for a bit, because it's very easy to spin out or have accidents in those cars, but you need to go fast in order to complete the heist. So please, just take the time, practice, practice, practice. Once you get used to it, it won't be that bad. Okay, miscellaneous items. Now, when it comes to miscellaneous items, those are just items that you either bring into or can find throughout the heist. You can carry an unlimited amount of them. They just affect what you can do or what you can open inside the heist itself. Though, with the exception of C4, every single miscellaneous item, you can only carry one of. So you can only carry one crowbar, one key card, one glass cutter, and that is it. But you can carry all three of those items at the same time, just only one of each. And no, your team AI cannot carry these items for you. So if you want to have an easier time grabbing everything that you need, like key cards in order to open stuff, make sure that you're playing with other players, or just be very patient. Okay, at least now that's demonstrated, like, you can actually reach the walls to get some stuff. I was gonna wait until the loadout video to talk about the hostages, but there is something I need to talk about real quick. If you kill a hostage, you lose money. Unfortunately, sometimes you kind of have to because one of the updates broke the civilian AI, so they no longer do pathfinding properly. So they would follow you for a bit, you have to put them down, then you have to pick them back up, and get them to follow you for like 5 steps, and then just repeat. Instead of them just getting lost for a second, and then finally figuring out, oh, I'm supposed to go this way. If you kill a civilian, you lose money. On the higher difficulties, when you have a ton of money, that isn't much of an issue, because you always earn more money than there are civilians on the map. But, yeah, early on, try to avoid it. Now, to talk about the final segment. Heist RNG. The thing that makes it to where I keep coming back to the game. The thing that makes it to where every time you replay a heist, there's always something different, whether it be small or big, and I think it's fun. I think it's a good thing. Oh yeah, it's also affected by heist difficulty. Yeah, that's the entire thing. The script was originally going to be longer, and I was going to make a list of stuff that it could affect, but it's basically everything, and if you go on the extreme ends of the difficulty sliding from like the easiest to the hardest, it would actually reduce the amount of randomness, but other than that, yeah, no, everything else you guys can figure out yourself. It's just, I just want to say, I think the randomness is good, and I think it makes the game more fun. Not for every single heist, because some of them barely have anything, but yeah, I enjoy it, and it's partly the reason why I still play this game. I actually probably wouldn't be making this video if there wasn't some amount of randomness to each heist. So, yeah, that was the entire video. I hope this video helped you out if you're new. Everyone, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoy some other videos on my channel, and good luck, heisters.